Thank you. Land Use Committee, July 2nd, 2020.
Did we hear anything from member Lindsay Bloomfield? Did she let anybody know whether she was going to be here or not?
I have not heard anything, Chuck. We can check with Camille when she comes in. The only one I heard from that I think you would have seen was member Chung. Said she was not.
Member Chung, yes.
Yeah, that's the only one,
Right.
but everyone else is present.
Okay. I call to order the Land Use and Development Committee. The first item on the agenda is the consideration of the June 4th, 2020 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by member Beard, a second by member Waczynski. Any additions, corrections to those minutes? All right, seeing none, can all those in favor please signify by saying aye or raising your hand?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Those are taken care of. I guess as the county administrator, or Julie, are you doing the appearance by members of the public?
I am doing appearance by members of the public, and I do have one.
All right,
Did
go
you
ahead.
do the bills? Did I miss the bills?
Oh, no, we got the bills. Aren't the bills at the end? No, I don't know. Where are the bills? The bills aren't on here. Are they? Oh, yes, they are. I missed it. My mistake. Sorry.
Okay.
Out this room. All right. I got bills here in the amount of, sorry, Mike,
That's okay.
$1,371.72. I have a letter here by the county auditor who has reviewed the bills and approved them. Can I have a motion to approve the bills? Got a motion by member Woolrav, a second by member Beard. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, seeing none. All right, I jumped the gun there. Julie, do we have any appearance by members of the public?
Yes, sir. I have received one, or actually Camille received one from a Tim Killian, and I will read that into the record. To the McLean County Board this June 16th, 2020. I am Tim Killian, the Chenoa Township Highway Commissioner, dealing with the Invenergy Blooming Grove Windmill developer. The development spans the county from Colfax to Gridley. The townships involved are Lawndale, Lexington, Chenoa, Money Creek, and Gridley. The roads that are a part of the project are a total of 47 miles. Last year, EDPR had 27 miles of road as part of their development with 5 water trucks to control the dust. Invenergy, with 47 miles of road in their development, is using 2 water trucks to control the dust. The county has issued a permit to Invenergy to operate with the understanding that Invenergy would be responsible for controlling the dust created by the traffic on the roads. The dust issue has been a part of the weekly meetings with Invenergy. The response has been, "We are going to." The dust continues to be an environmental issue for residents, and a safety issue for traffic. A request early in the development was brought to the attention of Invenergy that there is a resident infant who has been on oxygen. The dust control has been very good near her home. Dust control is possible. Other residents have not fared so well. With little or no dust control, the yards are gray, gardens are covered in lime dust, patio and deck furniture is unusable, and the yards will turn your shoes white with dust when crossing them. One contractor had over 130 truckloads of rock brought in to cover a road in one day. In a 10-hour day, that would have been 13 trucks per hour going by a home. However, the empty trucks also passed back by the home on their return to the pit. 26 trucks per hour, or a truck every 2.5 minutes. During a conversation with Tim Bailey, I asked how the dust was with the traffic. His response was, "What can you do?" Invenergy has been unwilling to respond appropriately to the requests of the highway commissioners during our weekly meetings. The dust continues to be a problem near the homes, and the safety issue is always present. I am asking the McLean County Board to look at the terms of the permit to operate for Invenergy and to respond. Thank you for listening. Tim Killian, Chenoa Township Highway Commissioner. That's the only one I have, Chuck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Why don't we come back and talk about that at, as an item for information? And let's do the item for action first. The first item for action is item 5A, request by James Rafferty for a preliminary plan requirements and approval of a one-lot subdivision final plat for the Kyle Rafferty subdivision. You want to discuss that first? Go ahead, Phil.
Mr. Kyle Rafferty and Mr. James Rafferty may be in the building to answer any questions if you have them that I can't answer. This is a one-lot subdivision approved by that needs to be approved by the county board. It has been it is a piece of property off of US Route 150 where the applicant wants to put a house for his son Kyle Rafferty, and he is a farm operator in the area, so he'd be able to do that under the zoning requirements. And the property is currently vacant, and the health department and the county highway department have signed off on this final plat, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, do I have any questions, Phil? I'm going to get a motion here. Can I get a motion to approve item for action 5A? I have a motion by member Wojcinski, second by member Beard. Any questions? Any comments? Question? All right, are we ready to vote? All right, seeing that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't see any, so that should pass. Phil, you'll give him the information about the next step and everything, I presume.
Yes, this will go to the county board for final approval on July 21st. And after the county board, the chair of the county board will sign ordinances, and they'll be, I'll let you know when it can be recorded. And as soon as it can be recorded, then we can go ahead and take a permit to build a house on this property. Although we're still needing a plat access certificate from the Illinois Department of Transportation. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you for the Raffertys to show up.
Thank you for the Raffertys for showing up. We appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is item 6A, update on the collapsed commercial building at 144 South Main Street, Cropsey. Phil, I know you'd sent out an email in regards to that. Do you wish to discuss it?
Yes, I just wanted to send you a photo. I was out there again yesterday, and I just wanted to let you know really how this, what I've done to try to get this to happen. I've been out to the site 9 times, including the visit out there with several of you on August 15th. The building collapsed on August 4th of 2019, and several of us, including members Metzger and Assistant State's Attorney Jessica Woods and Camille Rodriguez were out there to visit the site. I was again out there on November 4th, December 19th, March 4th, April 28th, May 5th, May 8th, May 20th, June 5th. My inspector was out there June 23rd, and then I was out there again yesterday. And the photos I sent you earlier today were from that visit. I have many other photos of that site as well, but as you can see, it's kind of cleaned up. As a follow-up to deal with Mr. Steve Cortland, who is the owner of the property, I've had 10 phone calls with him, starting with August 27th, and then on September 4th, I spoke with him again, and then on September 19th, and October 1st, and March 12th, April 7th, April 27th, May 8th, May 21st, and June 10th. He had a contractor out there to knock down that wall in May, and he had a contractor out there on the 22nd of June, and our inspector was out there to visit with the contractor, who was Jesse Thomas Trucking. And then I went out there yesterday to see that the site has been cleaned up. But I appreciate your patience with me on this, and I'm glad Mr. Cortland finally cleaned it up, although he still has some piles of debris that need to be removed. And I tried to get him to have Jesse Thomas Trucking haul them away for him, but he said he didn't have the resources to pay Jesse Thomas Trucking at the time, so he didn't get that part done. So we'll still have to get him to do that. I'll answer any questions if you have of that. Jerry Breyer was out there. He had seen the site. He had called me on the 23rd of June to let me know that the contractor had finally got out there. I wasn't sure that Steve Cortland was going to have a contractor then. He told me on the 20th of May that he would, but I didn't know if I could believe him. But he, in fact, then did have another contractor out there. So you just have to somehow try to keep pestering them until they can get it done.
Thank you, Phil, for following up and staying on him for at least getting to this point. I mean, it looks a lot better than it did. So does anybody have any questions of Phil about this? Any questions? Member Beard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Phil, thank you. I mean, very much. Thank you. I know this means a lot for the folks out there, and thinking back at some of the conversations we've had in the committee, that there were a lot of outcomes that wouldn't have been as favorable or would have been more expensive. So I really appreciate the work that you put in on this and to get us where we are today.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I did want to go back and only be an item for information, but about the permit. Can you tell us a little bit about what you know about that, Phil, and what that's about again?
I know that I did talk to the Invenergy coordinators earlier today, and they said they would have 3 water trucks running over the 4th of July weekend, watering the 47 miles of road that they have out there. They have applied this particular vegetable ingredient on many of the roads that causes it to, it limits the dust more than just water does. But some of the roads that they've done that with, they need to do again. And they're not able to do any of that until next week sometime. But I had thought it had improved somewhat because I hadn't received any calls this week at all of complaints. And so I was a little surprised. I thought that maybe Invenergy had stepped it up some. But I hadn't been in touch with, and nobody had called me for the last week on dust complaints.
Does anybody want to address that issue, the permit issue?
Yeah.
I can't hear. Member Woolrab.
Yeah, I just kind of wondering what the language is, if you have it available, that we're supposed to be, or they're supposed to be living up to, and how far off are they on what they specified they would do and we agreed to with them, and versus what they're actually doing.
I wish that he would spend more time talking with me and Jerry Stokes, because Jerry and I are trying to coordinate the dust control. And I would have, when I went out to Cropsey yesterday, I would have gone and monitored some of the roads if I had known that they were still an issue. I didn't realize that he still had a serious problem with them. But my advice to deal with the dust is that if they are continuing to be a problem, Jerry and I have an arrangement whereby we will take turns going out and monitoring those roads if necessary every day.
County Administrator Rodriguez, did you want to say something?
A follow-up if it's for me, just to that.
All right, go ahead. Remember,
Standard are they supposed to be upholding? What is the wording? Does Jessica or do you, Phil, have the actual wording of, is there a frequency, or how do we determine whether they're upholding their end of the bargain here?
The situation is that when it's hot and the wind is blowing, there's going to be dust on gravel roads. And they need to have enough trucks on them to limit it to some extent. But they're not going to feasibly be able to eliminate all the dust on the 47 miles of road all day, every day. So to some extent, we have to get them, we have to evaluate it. If it's too dusty, then we have to tell them to get more trucks out there. And when they don't complain, then we don't check up as much. And so that's probably a fault too. But as you know, it's we have to some extent rely on people complaining to us for us to go check on things, because our staffs are very thin.
Member Woolrab, did you have any follow-up?
I guess I didn't exactly get the qualifications there that they're supposed to live up to, but maybe, maybe if it continues, we can look at it more directly.
The situation is worse when they're pouring concrete. They have 3/4 of all the pads in. They have 18 of the turbine towers up to the second level, and they have 4 completed turbines topped off. So this is going to be a bit of more of a dust problem, so long as they're pouring concrete and they're running lots of concrete trucks. But that too will end.
Member Woolrab, anything else? County Administrator Rodriguez, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Chairman Erickson. I have Catherine Metzger, Member Metzger, in the room, and she wishes to approach the podium and make comment.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to make sure I give the members of the Land Use Committee a chance to speak first. So is there another member of the Land Use Committee? I saw Member Beard had his hand up. Is your hand still up, or did you take it back down?
Yeah, I think to Member Woolrab's question, I too would be curious. Is there a specific documented standard that, they have to do some dust control, right? They can't do none of it. But is there a documented standard in the agreement beyond just better or worse? And not knowing the evidence or whatnot, but hearing that, if a resident is having all their vegetation outside, is having the outside of their home become unusable for a period of days or weeks, that seems like it wouldn't meet, it would be falling short of whatever the standard was. So I don't know if how that's documented, whether it's an amount or just it can't impact the outdoor area of residents who live along these gravel roads.
And I can try and jump in here too. I did pull up the road use agreement, and what it says is that it says in section V, provide dust control and grading work to the reasonable satisfaction of the county engineer on county roads covered by this agreement that become aggregate surface roads. It also says in section X, keep all county highways used by the developer clear by removing all mud, dirt, dust, and spilled or tracked material. There may be more in here, but just perusing it quickly, having just pulled it up, that's kind of the standards that I see in this road use agreement, and it is more of an objective standard or subjective standard of, you know, to the satisfaction of the county engineers. So we may need to get Jerry Stokes involved, but he would have the ultimate say on whether their dust mitigation efforts are satisfactory or not.
Any other members want to address this? I want to make sure I give the members a chance first. Member Woolrab.
I'm just wondering if this isn't even to the extent that it could be causing crop damage. And I think a lot of dust on crops can do that, although I'm not a farmer, but I think we certainly want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Was that a question, Lori, or did you want Phil to, or is that?
Well, so I guess it sounds like it's really up to Jerry Stokes to determine whether they're meeting some reasonable standard. And, you know, maybe we can get some input from him about where this is going in between this meeting and the next, that's all.
Thank you. I still want to discuss this. Anybody else on the land use committee? Is Member Metzger there? Does she wish to address it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Erickson, for allowing me to speak. Jessica was talking about the contract or the agreement between the county and Invenergy. There are contracts also with each road district. Those are the ones that can, because the one that Jessica referred to only deals with county roads. The county roads are not gravel. The roads that are gravel are the township roads. The townships are having the issue. And Chairman McIntyre and I went out there on June the 11th and had a conversation with the project manager, and he assured us that it would be corrected. And Mr. Killian was present with us. We went through the entire project in my truck and saw the decimated roads and the mess that exists out there. And there were trucks running up and down the roads, even if they go the speed limit, which most are not, the dust is just rolling. We haven't had rain, and I understand that, but they are to have trucks, they are to have water trucks, and they haven't had water trucks. They have 4 water trucks for 47 miles. That's ridiculous. In addition, they assured us that it would happen, that they would take care of it. And Mr. Killian called me the next day and said nothing had been done. So what he would like to have is shut it down so they know that we're serious. And then when it gets shut down, then maybe they'll pay attention. But until they get shut down, they're continuing to run. They're not paying any attention to what's going on in the townships. And Jerry Stokes, as great as he may be, has no jurisdiction over the townships. So we need some help. The township road commissioners need the assistance. Any questions?
Well, that raises a question for me, for Jessica. I mean, who has the jurisdiction here? Who has the power? Is it the townships or is it the county? And maybe I don't understand the issue, but that's my first question. And then I guess if it is the townships, what can they actually do? What do they have the power to do under this situation?
And I don't have copies. I don't know that I've ever seen copies of the road use agreements with the townships. It's possible I have, I just don't recall. So we would have to defer to whatever the language in those road use agreements are, whether there's any more specific language, or I assume that there's something in there that says that they have to do dust mitigation to the satisfaction of the township road commissioner, perhaps. But if they are violating those road use agreements, that would be between them and the township to resolve. I don't know, and Phil, maybe you can speak to this. Is there anything in their permit that requires them to be in compliance with the township road use agreements? I just know that they're required to have road use agreements, but is there anything that we could use to hold over their head to make sure that they're in compliance with those road use agreements?
That directed to Phil? Jessica?
Yeah, if you know, Phil.
Our permits just require them to have that road use agreement that has been approved. And the road authority has the authority to stop those vehicles on their roads. However, at the same time, there's going to be dust on the roads whether their vehicles are going on them or not. I think that to some extent, we need to be aware that the roads are very dusty, and they're not going to be able to get rid of all the dust. But if it's too dusty, it has to be dealt with. And Jerry and I have to pressure them, and that's what we're willing to do. And that's I just didn't know that it was bad this week.
Member Metzger, I see you. I just wanted to ask this. I mean, is it possible to get Mr. Killian to send in his contracts or whatever he has so we can look at them, and can we give them any assistance, or are they on their own?
We have copies of their road use agreements.
I don't know that we have the power to give them much assistance, though, since we're not a party to the road use agreements.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
That would be better dealt with the township. Obviously, I'm sure we want to help if we can, but the ultimate power would lie with the townships to enforce their own road use agreements.
Member Metzger.
The thing that's most frustrating, and the people out there are so upset that they have to police this, and that the only way that they can get anybody to even come out and pay attention to them is constant complaints. You know, people want to live their life. They don't want to be constantly calling the county and saying, this is dusty, please come out and see our dust. I mean, this has gotten ridiculous that my constituents have to police an organization that is paying absolutely no attention to their contracts, and they just keep going and could care less about the people who have to live in this. And this is not appropriate. And for us to continue to say that it is something that we need to police and that there's no complaints, so there's no problem. That's the same thing that took place when it took place out at where I live. We gave up complaining because no one listened, and it's so frustrating.
Let's see, Catherine. I don't know you can see me, but I really think it's probably, and you can correct it, and that's that it would be up to the road commissioner.
George, come up and speak into the mic, or does he speak? I can't.
No. I think, and I'm not an attorney, you're an attorney, but I think that is jurisdiction of the road commissioners. And I think they probably would have the power to shut the traffic down on their roads. If this trucking company, or if they're not obeying, they're making a mess of their roads. And I think the road commissioners control who That's what I,
Julie, on the email that she wrote or that she read, I thought I heard that the date of that was June 18th. Is that correct?
June 16th.
June 16th. So so perhaps things have gotten better since then, since Phil said he hadn't heard from anyone. Is that right?
Ms. Wachinski, Ms. Camille Rodriguez asked me to call Mr. Killian today to follow up and make sure that he still wanted this read, since it had been a few weeks. And so I did what she asked me to do, and I told her that he asked me to have it read at land use and at board. So based on that, I'm assuming that the stuff is still a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Go back to the issue that I think the issue is before us is what is our power? I mean, does any member want to address what they would like to see the land use committee do in regards to this, keeping in mind we have to figure out if we have any power to do anything? Does the committee want to address that? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What can we do? Even if we wanted to do something, can we do anything? We could hold a meeting and it'd just be talk because we wouldn't be able to do anything. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So Jessica, can you speak on that again? I know you have addressed it, but you kind of help us out here.
I'll try. If the issues are with the township roads, I don't know that we have a lot of power, other than just appealing to their sense of, not wanting to upset the county, as we're one of the big players here, obviously. But from a legal standpoint, we wouldn't be the ones to enforce any violations to a road use agreement. That would be the township to either say that they no longer can utilize the roads or to take further legal action against them for violating the road use agreement. And that is assuming that the road use agreement has something in it that they have been violating. So that would really be up to the townships, and the only role that the county would play at this point, as far as I see it from a legal standpoint, would just be to encourage compliance. But I don't know that there's any legal remedy for if it's the township roads.
And we are in agreement that it is the township roads, right? I mean, it's not the county roads. It's the township roads. Member Beard, I see you raising your hand.
And can I ask Ms. Woods, to that point, it would be dubious of us to pull the permit or put a pause on it if there was no violation of the agreement with the county because these issues were not on county roads, correct?
Correct. If they're not violating any part of our permit or our road use agreement, I would strongly advise against taking any adverse action against them. There could be legal consequences for us if we do so. Now, I'm not giving any indication of whether I think they have or haven't violated anything, but unless we can find a provision of the permit that they have violated or a provision of our road use agreement that they violated, I don't think that we should be taking any adverse action against them.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I guess my thoughts, and I'm willing to change, I'm not stuck on this, but at this point in time, maybe between Mr. Dick, and all the road commissioners with the townships, continue to meet with Invenergy, and maybe the townships need to be explicit about that shutting down access to their roads is something that they're going to consider and do. And as the county, we're not going to stand in the way of that happening if they feel that their agreements are not being met. And maybe that's the the way to go about this. I completely understand what Ms. Metzger said. If you're a resident there, having, waiting 30 days at a time, that's a long time to have to wait, especially if, it's bad every single day. So I understand that time is of the essence here for those folks. So maybe that kind of approach, I don't know.
Member Metzger, were you wanting to come back up and say something? Anybody else in the Land Use Committee have anything they wanted to say? Member Metzger?
Do you see how the county providing these permits and having control over the permits, but then throwing the townships under the bus? Because what happened is that you hold all the power, our county holds the power to pull these permits, but they won't, because they don't have an agreement with the townships. So the townships have no recourse. The only thing they could do is possibly try to shut down the roads. That's pretty hard for one person to do. So, there's no possible way that one road commissioner could stop on those 47, and even if there are 3 road commissioners on 47 miles of roads. So the problem we have with these contracts and with these big projects, which this isn't the first time this has gone on. This happens constantly. This is the first time that people actually are constantly complaining, so we actually know that it's going on. I assure you, it went on in the project 7 years ago around my house. So the point is that the building permits are issued by the county, but the county has no willingness to shut them down when they're not following the contracts for the townships, and the townships are the ones that are hurting, not the county. Now the county roads are not good either, but Jerry Stokes is all over when they've made big holes and they're running off and the shoulders are a mess. Jerry's all over that. So our county roads aren't great, but it's nothing like these township roads.
Member Walrab?
So question for legal staff or Phil. So our permit agreement doesn't reference, does it or doesn't it reference that the company has to abide by these township agreements?
Bill, do you know? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the exact language of the permits.
The permits require them to have an agreement with the townships, and the townships have to sign off on that agreement.
It just requires that there is one, from my recollection, not what they have to say. And the townships are free to negotiate whatever they want in those township agreements, correct? I mean, that's a separate transaction that we're not involved in the negotiations with at all. We just have to know that there's a valid executed road use agreement in place, correct?
Yes, and generally, the county has suggested the townships use a similar or one of the same attorneys who negotiates previous agreements. And in this particular one, I think the townships didn't want to use that particular attorney, so they're kind of didn't follow a lot of the other recommendations that the other townships had when they had their road use agreements. So they are independent to negotiate their own agreements.
And along with that, I don't even know that we have.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jessica. Go ahead, Jessica.
I was just going to say, I don't think we even have jurisdiction to negotiate anything for the township roads.
I guess what I'm saying is, couldn't our permit requirements reference back to say, I mean, maybe this one, it's a done deal, but say that they have to follow the strictures of whatever are in the, that we would have the ability to to pull the permit or to suspend it or whatever, if they're not meeting the requirements of the township agreements.
That is something we certainly could look into adding in future agreements, if there are any.
My thought on it is there any language in our permit that says, listen, you have to comply with the township agreements, and if you don't, you're in violation of the county agreement? I think that's our question. Is that something that we can look at? If that's a possibility, I guess. I mean, because I don't know. I don't have the documents in front of me. I don't know what they say. I'm giving you a hypothetical, Jessica. Man, it's kind of like a law school question. And can you tell me?
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, I would defer to Phil on this because he's our expert on the permit language. I could certainly review our permit language unless Phil happens to know.
It's my experience with this is that what we want to do is figure out a way to do dust control so that the people aren't having to deal with the dust. And holding legal action over them isn't necessarily the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to have a coordinated effort from Jerry and me to get on these people to provide dust control. And if they're not doing it, then we have to keep pressuring more. And that's what we do. And I understand what Ms. Metzger says. People don't want to complain all the time. We want them to complain all the time because we can't be out 20 miles away checking the roads every half hour or every 2 hours. We have to depend on them to be our eyes and ears. And if they will complain, then we will do something about it every time. But we have enough going on that I told you how many times I went out to Cropsey, and let me tell you this: it takes you 50 minutes to get to Cropsey and 50 minutes to get back. So what I try to do then, if I need to, is go check some roads over there at the wind farm to see how dusty they are, and if they are, then I call them and let them know. And if I'm calling them, I like the people who are experiencing the dust to call them too, because it makes them deal with it. And I think that's what we have to do. We just have to stay on them about getting rid of the dust. And I think that to some extent, taking them to court isn't necessarily the solution, but I think we can make them do it. And then at some point, this will be resolved because those roads are going to be repaved.
Member Metzger, did you have something you wanted to say?
I have a couple of things to say. One of them was the attorney that these three, actually five townships actually would not use the attorneys that were used for the other wind company projects because they weren't adequate. We'll just leave it there. So they did go out and they found somebody to provide them better representation. So that's the first thing. The second thing about people live their lives. They go to work. They get tired of complaining. And to say that the people are expected to police it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And if Bill goes out to Cropsey, he goes right by there. Why wouldn't you drive through that project area and see how bad it is? And I'm sorry, but I don't believe they're going to do anything because Chairman McIntyre and I had a conversation outside with this gentleman, the project manager, and he said he would take care of it. The next day, nothing was done. And then a couple of days later, Mr. Killian has to write a letter to try to get somebody to pay attention. There's got to be more than complaining going on here. And complaining shouldn't cause somebody to go out. We should be going out there knowing that this $1 billion project is taking place. It's unacceptable, totally unacceptable. Now, Member Beard had a good suggestion. Get everybody together. I don't disagree. Mr. Dick, I agree with you. Threatening and taking people, legal action doesn't do a whole lot, but I'm not sure anything is going to do anything with this company because they told us they would take care of it, looked us in the face and told us they would take care of it, and they have not. So this is a company that I just don't think we should be dealing with. But again, we did. We have all these building permits, and you've thrown the townships and all of my constituents under the bus.
I want to say something here. I just want to address this to the county administrator. Would there be any value, and I want other people's input on this, and bringing Mr. Killian in and asking him what his issues are and seeing if there's anything that we can do or can't do? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure this out myself. I mean, that's a question to the county administrator. If she has any input she'd like to add on this. I don't mean to put you on the spot there, but you know, what do you think?
I certainly am always willing to convene and discuss with concerned parties. I would obviously not, I would have to become more astute in the parameters of our authority or what actions we could take in advance of convening said meeting, because you know, as our attorney, Ms. Woods, you know, noted, we may or may not be able to hold accountable through the road use agreement that the townships have. But I am absolutely willing to sit down and talk, you know, and I know that it's challenging. I'll just say from this end, I speak with County Engineer Stokes, just did so today in advance of this meeting, and know that Mr. Dick and Mr. Stokes go out, and they don't go out on the same days. They try to go out and check. And it's not enough. We do know that, but they do make efforts to do this. So any of the interested parties that perhaps need more communication from us, as Member Metzger said, those folks live lives and they don't want to always be complaining. So perhaps if we try to reach out to them a little more too, to gather information instead of them having to pursue us, I think small gestures like that can go a long way. But again, I don't say that, Chairman Erickson, to make promises that we have enforcement authority, but perhaps gathering some of their thoughts on how to better receive their complaints in a more efficient manner. Is there anything else that you know we can do? I should ask that of them. So I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I would ask maybe if I guess I don't have the authority to ask for a legal opinion, but at least look at what is our authority from this perspective, okay? And then if you could report that to the county administrator, I don't know. I mean, could we do that? Does the county have any authority to do anything? The answer may be, I've looked at it, Chuck. The answer is no, we don't have any authority. There you go. Okay, I mean, that's what the answer is. But, you know, I think the members want an answer to that question. I mean, to see if the county does have any ability to do anything. And I'm where the answer might be, no, Chuck, you don't have the authority to do anything. But I think they would like to know that. Is that correct with the members? Am I misspeaking to the members? Is that correct? And I think I see people shaking their heads. So yeah, I think we kind of want to know the answer to that question. So how do we go about doing that, Jessica, and County Administrator Rodriguez and State's Attorney Woods? Make sure I use proper language here. How do we go about doing that? What do we do? I mean,
well, and this sounds like a great project for Samantha Vasquez, who I note is on this meeting as well. And since I am a short timer, I doubt that I will be able to get you that information, but I am very glad that Samantha has been on this so that she has heard everything. And I'm sure she can work with Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Dick and get you that answer.
Member
Absolutely.
Yeah, Member
Um,
Beard.
Yeah, I would just also like to add, I mean, dust control is not an unsolvable problem. Like, we know how to do that. They use more trucks and put out more water on the roads. So I guess in the conversations, in as timely a way as possible, how we can strongly convey and communicate within Vinergy the desire to do this well, as has previously been demonstrated. You know, it's like, you know how to solve the problem. It's not like they can't not figure it out. There's a way to do it. Put more trucks out. So how we go about conveying that is the expectation? Is it, hey, every morning, why don't you send an email and report out how many water trucks are running that day? Something like that. A morning call to all the road commissioners or a text to say, here's what we're doing proactively today. I don't know what the solution looks like, but I know it's a solvable problem. It's not a scientifically, unable to figure out. So I would just listen to Member Metzger's concerns. It needs to be timely, and I would not want to be here a month from now still trying to figure out what to do, because that's a long time for those folks.
Member Woolrab.
Just briefly, maybe Invenergy is doing what they usually do, but we've had a lot of very, very hot, dry, and windy weather, and maybe they have to go outside their normal procedures and just figure it out. I mean, I think it is mostly a conversation here, and maybe, unfortunately, multiple conversations.
Could Ms. Vasquez get with County Administrator Rodriguez and try to get us an answer to that? If you could, you want it, send it to me and Vice Chairwoman Woolrab and let us know what the answer is. And if we need to have another meeting of the Land Use Committee to address it, I guess we could consider that first. But you're right, County Administrator Rodriguez, I guess first we have to figure out. We don't want to make promises that we can't keep. We don't want to make assurances that we can't give. And so I guess the first step is to figure out what we can and cannot do. And so, you know how much time that will take to look at that?
So I have the advantage of being at my desk with the access to all of the G Drive files that we have saved here. And so I'm looking through these, and I think there's only a few, probably 6 or 7 from the year that we need. So I need to go through these. We can probably have a turnaround within a week. I know it's the end of the week today, but depending on the schedule of Ms. Rodriguez, then we can probably have a turnaround on that question.
I mean, because we don't answer that question. I mean, if we can't do anything, I guess it's a moot point for us. But if we can do something, or if there's something we can do, I can forward with that. Yeah, if you could take a look at that. I know it's not, hey, I got to drop everything I'm doing and look through this big book and figure out what the answer is. I know how legal research goes, but when you can get to it, if you could get to that as a timely manner with the 8 million other things you're probably doing, I'd appreciate it. So I think that's the committee's consensus, isn't it? Am I correct with that? I think that's where we're at. So I see people shaking their heads. So that's what we'll do. So.
Okay.
Anything else from the committee?
And is Mr. Dick going to have is Mr. Dick going to have a conversation in this upcoming week with all the interested parties?
Yes, I'm going to talk to Jerry Stokes and work on dust control as if it's a big problem right now.
Thank you, Phil. That would be great. Appreciate that. All right. We're on item, we're already on item 6C, other items of information. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? And our next meeting is presently scheduled for 3:30 p.m. Thursday, August 6th. Unless we hear something otherwise. Anything else? All right, I think we're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.